Hello nerds, welcome to your new favorite pop culture podcast, The Post Credit Show. I'm your co-host Loosh, and I am so excited today to welcome you to our very first ever interview. We are thrilled today to be interviewing the legendary Jay Tavare, who played the role of Vega in 1994's Street Fighter movie. Now, if you haven't listened to this week's episode, we focus very closely on a bunch of movies that were inspired by video games in celebration of the 30th anniversary of Street Fighter the movie, featuring Claud Van Dam, Raul Julia, Kylie Minogue, and so many more. So enjoy this interview, and if you haven't seen the movie, please do yourself a favor. I promise you won't be disappointed when you tune in to watch the Spanish ninja Vega in Street Fighter, the movie. Enjoy the interview with Jay. We'll see you next week. Well, let's start off with introducing you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jay. Tell us how you came to get involved in Hollywood and what you've been doing.
That's a long story. But Street Fighter, fun enough, was my first big feature. But I've always wanted to be an actor, even when I was younger. I guess, like many people, when I saw Bruce Lee on screen, he had such an impact on me. But I was a martial artist, I was a gymnast, I was a break dancer. In fact, I was the world freestyle breakdance champion when I was 18. So I was very physical. And I guess when I ended up in LA, my initial goal was to be an action figure. I wanted to be an action star like Jean-Claude and them. So, and I kind of knew Jean-Claude before Street Fighter. I'd done a little short for him that he used me to be the villain in there. And but Street Fighter just came out of nowhere. It was a game that was huge, and it was 1993. It was the end of '93, and I remember I saw this script, and my agent at the time was Steve Levinson, who's now Mark Wahlberg's manager and partner. Yeah, and he's huge. He's now done, so many series, including Ballers, Mad Men, you name it. He produces all Mark's movies. So Steve, we called him Lev back then. His name is short Lev. Lev, he wanted me to play Ryu. He thought I was Asianic enough to play Ryu. But once I read the script, and there was that entrance of Vega handing out roses, and then he has his three Vegettes, the three girls, one carries his mask, one claw, one is roses. And the flamboyantness of the character, I was like, instantly, I said, that's me. This is the guy. Plus, he was described as brutally muscled with matinee idol look. So every actor in Hollywood said, that's me.
You're not wrong. Was that hair yours, Jay?
I had long hair, but they wanted the pony to be so thick to read on film, so they added a piece into my long hair, so it was literally this thick. So like it was part of the character. In fact, there's a few things like flick my ponytail, and the director loved that. He was vain.
It's like a weapon in and of itself, isn't it? That hair.
Yeah, there was those Chinese Wusu guys who would put a little spike under their hair and whip it around.
Yeah.
But, now look, I grew up playing Street Fighter. I very much remember. So in 1993, I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
My dad I was a baby. My dad used to send me down to the local shops to buy newspaper, and he'd give me $1, and the newspaper would cost 40 cents. Mm-hmm. And at the video shop on the way back, there was Street Fighter 2, the arcade game. Mm-hmm. And I would always go in, and it was 20 cents per play. I would always go in, and I would always spend that last 60 cents playing Street Fighter. And 100% of the time, I played as Vega.
Well, Vega was very popular. I mean, I met the guys who played the World Championships, and the kid who had won the contest played Vega. So Vega was one of the fastest, and he was very popular. I remember that. In fact, getting ready for the role, I went into arcades. I met with the kids. I realized how fanatical they were about every aspect of these characters. They knew the stats, the birth date, the characteristics, everything. It was a whole backstory to each character and how they came to become the fighters they are. Like Vega was a matador fighter, a bullfighter who had learned ninjutsu. and ninjutsu and matador techniques. Now, the challenge for me was I got the mask and the claw and everything only days before the shoot. So I really didn't have time to work with them. And there was a real thing. They built me the real metal, foot-long, heavy. In fact, the first thing I did, I put some hinges on it so I could actually move my wrist. And I literally had to, this is where my dance element came handy, because I had to think about how to move with this thing and make it become believable. I mean, it's one thing saying, hey, it's got a mask and a claw. Is another thing trying to actually do a back somersault with this on and a claw. So it's a whole different logistics when you actually have to do it. So, but I didn't have much time. So I literally we were learning as we went. So that element I remember.
So when your agent came to you and said, "Hey, Street Fighter, we've got this character. We want you to play Ryu." You've gone and read the script. You've gone, "Hey, no, I think Vega's better for me." How did that conversation go? Obviously, working with the director, who is a very prolific director at the moment, has been involved in a lot of different movies, has written some of the most iconic movies like Die Hard.
Just to put into perspective, in the 1980s, Steven deSouza was the biggest action writer in the world. I mean, he had written Die Hard, Commando, Running Man, you name it. All those films he had penned them, or he had at least done a draft of them. So, and when they approached him to write Street Fighter, he wasn't supposed to direct. Once he read it, and his kids loved the movie so much, the game, he says, "I'll write it if I can direct." And that's how it came about. But Steven, all credits to him. He created a movie that 30 years later, 30 years this year is 30-year anniversary.
Talking about it.
And bigger than ever. Bigger than ever. There's more Street Fighter fans now than it was 30 years ago. So
absolutely.
That is really a testimony to a film that at the time was received kind of lukewarm, because it wasn't what people expected. They wanted more gore. And I said right off the bat, the reason you got the movie you got is because the censors were on our director like white on rice. They had told him if he has one cracking sound, if he has any drop of blood, if he has any cuts, the movie will not get the ratings he wanted, which was PG-13. We're going to make it an X. So his challenge was they shot a lot more action. And trust me, I did things that I wish it was in the movie, but they're not in the movie. It all got cut out, unfortunately, and what you see is basically a shell of the movie we made, because they wanted to make it the ratings for the kids. And on the hindsight, they should have made an X-rated version to be released now, but they all that footage is in a vaults at Universal somewhere. So
who knows? Maybe we might see a deSouza cut somewhere. We've seen the Snyder cut, so maybe there's a deSouza cut coming.
He just did a cut last year, I think, that was actually the ultimate cut, but it was more about some of the cut scenes. But I asked him, I said, because I did one of these interviews with him in it, and he said, no, unfortunately, he goes, I don't know where that footage is. So I'm sure it's a big shame for the fans.
Man. Now, we're obviously based in Australia, and this movie was filmed in the Gold Coast in Australia. How did you find your time over here?
Oh, it was 3.5 months. I mean, we had a choice of staying in any of the penthouses overlooking the ocean, or at the I think I was at the Marriott.
Yeah, the Marriott Hotel.
The Marriott Resort, and it was new. We were the first. The studio that took us was brand new. We were the first movie off the bat in '94. And right after us, Phantom was shot. So back to back, those were the first two movies, Street Fighter and Phantom with Billy Zane. But it was gorgeous. I mean, because I live in California, for me, Gold Coast reminded me of California, except cleaner without the earthquakes. So it was, it was, and the food was great, and I loved the people, and we had a great. I can't lie, I had an amazing time in Australia. It was like just a fun experience, and we had Kylie Minogue, so she was, of course, she was like the rep for Australia in the movie, and she did great.
Well, there was also I've forgotten his name off the top of my head, but the lad who played
Robert Mamone,
who played Balrog, who played Blanca.
Oh, that's right. He was a big buffed stuntman. I remember him. That's right.
Yeah, so he played Blanca in the movie as well, and he actually went on to play
as the monster. There was another guy who played Blanca normal. He was Exactly. He played the monster.
went on to play a really, really important role in a TV series out here in Australia called Underbelly, which actually explores the Australian mob, and he played the big mob guy. And I remember watching that when that came out a few years back. I'm like, hold on a second, I know that name.
No, he was a nice guy. I remember him.
So what was Kylie like? Obviously, did you get to spend much time with Kylie and Jean-Claude and Raul?
For a pop star, as wealthy as she was very down to earth and really dedicated to getting her character right. I mean, we had Benny the Jet as our trainer. So Benny Urquidez, who's a legend in Australia too.
Yeah.
And he literally put us through 6 hours of training every day. 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours in the evening. We had like 6 hours of training, from martial art training to stretching and just cardio to weight training. He had us training just like he would train fighters for a real fight. So we were like in tip-top shape, and Kylie was going through all the training with us. I mean, when you see the final product, she's throwing those kicks herself. So
yeah, she's incredible in it. Yeah.
It was, and she's a good dancer, so she had the moves.
We were also told, Jay, that you did all your own stunts in the film because they couldn't find somebody that looked like you. Is that true?
This is how my career started as a stunt actor.
Yes.
Because throughout my career, I've done all my stunts in all my films. I'm proud to say, even the death-defying one, like in CSI Miami, I jumped out of a 24-story buildings. I went through a glass plate and fell backwards 230 feet on a decelerator. So all of that is because of Street Fighter. Because literally what it was is Vega had no top on. I was down to like 2 or 3% body fat naturally. And I was shredded to the point they called me the specimen on the set. And it was impossible to double me. It was impossible. I mean, like even from every angle, I was so shredded that literally a stuntman, unless he was as ripped, it was obvious it wasn't me. So they just couldn't have a double me. So in the end, then he said, why you want to double him? He can do anything your stuntmen do, even better. And Charlie Pacerni, who was our fight coordinator, he's a legend as well. He comes from the Pacerni family, Italian stunt coordinator, second unit directors. He's done Die Hard, Lethal Weapon. I mean, the guy had done the biggest movies and still is the family. And he kind of like wasn't sure, And the rumor in Hollywood is you never let actors do their own stunts because they're going to get hurt. And the stunties, as we call them, they don't like actors doing their own stunts because they don't get paid. And they don't like actors who can do their own stunts. So I was one of those oddities that they had no choice. They had to let me do even the dive I do out of the cage when the Jean-Claude comes with the tank to crush the
when
thing.
he drove it on the tank.
That dive was for real, and that tank was for real. And the cage was collapsible. So I had one shot at getting out of there. And I flew out of there. I mean, I flew like 15, 20 feet. They missed it. They missed the flight. Trust me, the Entertainment Tonight was there. They saw how far I flew. I flew like 15, 20 feet out of there, like Vega, because my goal was to take all Vega moves and put it in movies somewhere. And Vega, that dive he did across the cage.
Where he kind of rolls off his hand. Yeah.
No, the roll with the claw was different. He actually had a dive. He would just dive across. He would just fly across. So I put that to get out of the cage. He flew out of the cage doing that flight.
Wow.
So, and I put the roll somewhere at the end when I'm fighting Ryu. In fact, I just did here in LA just a month ago. We had a screening of Street Fighter, a really late night here in Westwood, and Byron Mann, who plays Ryu, was there, and we did a Q&A afterwards.
I actually watched that.
It was the first time I've seen that footage. I mean, on big screen, the movie since the 90s, and it actually held his own. I was shocked. The movie wasn't as nearly as bad as I thought.
I actually think, how sometimes you get those box office bombs who they just don't do very well, and people just kind of like, I mean, at the moment, so we're obviously talking to you in celebration of the 30th anniversary of Street Fighter, and the episode that we've recorded this week talks about movies that have been, video games that have been turned into movies. And Monster Hunter is one that we brought up, which again, very similar to Street Fighter, absolute box office bomb. However, as soon as it's come on Netflix, it's very quickly shot up to being Netflix's #1 most watched movie right now. Because
Interesting.
years later, the storyline, the stunts, the CGI, the graphic, everything that they did in that movie, it actually holds on really well.
Yeah.
And it has aged really well. And I think Street Fighter has as well. I've actually watched Street Fighter twice this week in preparation for this episode.
Well, I watched it about 3 hours ago as well, and I watched it a few days ago, and it has.
I mean, it's
really
relentless. From the moment it starts, it's boom, is on. There's no slowing down pace. That movie just has a pace to it that literally, I have to give credit again to our director. It starts explosively and it goes all the way through. It doesn't stop. So, you know, they did a good job. I mean, like, on hindsight.
Absolutely. We're not the only ones that are fans. There's millions of people out there that are constantly rewatching this on a daily basis. Like, oh, man, I love it. We love it. It's fantastic.
Now, obviously, this movie was, I believe, the last cinematic appearance for the late great Raul Julia.
Oh, yes,
General M. Bison. Did you have the opportunity to work alongside him during the movie?
Oh, absolutely. No, I even flew back from Australia with him and his wife and his family, actually. And Raul, God bless him, when he arrived we started the movie in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. Raul, at 6'4", he was 160 pounds. He had lost that much weight, and he had just had surgery where that cut him from here down there. The whole stomach was open. So he had stomach surgery where that removed part of his gut. He was so sick. He literally, when he arrived, we thought there's no way he's going to be able to play the role. And there's no way he can do the training that was expected of him. But this is where Raul was a master of his craft, because the man had a Grammy, an Emmy, an Oscar. He had it all. I mean, he could do it all. He could do a musical. He could do comedy. I would watch him getting his makeup done, where he would literally be passed out on the chair like this while they were working on him. And when they would finish, they would tap him on. He would wake up, and he would just go, and then he would just go, and he become Bison. It was all in his head. He would literally pump up and become Bison. And we were all looking and go, this guy was dead. He was like, it was unbelievable. It was just a testament to his acting skills and the ability he had to just, bring it on when it was necessary. When the camera said rolling, he was Bison. And he did an incredible job.
Actor. Absolutely incredible actor. I don't think he ever made a bad movie, to be honest with you.
No. I mean, it was a huge loss. Yeah. And he went after us to Vancouver, started the movie, never finished it. 2-3 weeks later, he was gone, sadly. I even ended up at his funeral with all the stars and stuff here. It was very sad. Yeah. No, I got along with Raul. I loved him. We had a great relationship. It was, I mean, it was an honor to have him on the movie. Again, he did it because his children loved the film. It wasn't something he would normally do, but he loved his kids. Says, "Oh, you got to do this. We love Street Fighter," and that's how most of these guys got involved.
Knowing that he was in that state, but then also watching the movie and seeing how just intimidating and like the presence that Bison has in that movie is far and above one of the most iconic bad guys of the 90s, I reckon.
100%. And his delivery and the things he had lived. There's a scene where he looks at my boss, Sagat, who's West Studi, who wears the eye patch. And West Studi is saying, I didn't see it. And then Bison goes, I guess you didn't see that one either. That was an ad lib. He completely made up stuff, and he made it even funnier dialogue than it was. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Raul.
Did whilst filming Street Fighter, did you have a favorite scene in the movie that you really enjoyed, or you thought that stood out more than others?
Well, the Vega arrival was very epic. They're playing Bolero. He's got the 3 Vegettes. One is carrying the mask. One has got the claw. One has got the roses. I had a whole a warehouse full of people screaming my name. It literally was like an entrance of a fighter in Madison Square Garden. It was like epic. And he's walking and he's waving. He's hanging roses. So that scene, and it ends with me confronting Raul, and then the tank coming through the stunt.
jumping
So that
out.
was a pretty complex scene. But beside that, the final fight between me and Ryu, which, by the way, was done both with Byron as well as Ernie Ray Sr. God bless him. He was an amazing, I mean, he is an amazing Taekwondo fighter, him and his son. And he did some of the, I mean, we were doing full contact fighting at the end.
Wow.
And that's the scene I'm most upset about, because there was a lot of cool stuff in there that was kind of chopped.
Yeah.
And you didn't see
they kind of went
done.
between the fight that you were having and Blanca and Honda.
Exactly.
And yeah.
That was the criticism. I mean, the idea was to go back and forth between the two fights, but they cut it too short. It should have been more of one fight before you showed the other. It was very quick, and I think a lot of the audience, they wanted to see more. They wanted to see more of the skills and stuff of each fighter.
100%.
But,
100%.
you know, it's all hindsight now.
We need to get into that vault somehow and get this unreleased copy. We need to get it.
I know. We need I think all the fans, if they wrote to Universal, maybe they will actually go dig it up. Like they did with the
release
Superman.
the deSouza cut. Hashtag release the deSouza cut.
We'll start
look
it
at
for
look
you.
at the Zack Snyder recently. That happened to his movie. He'd done that superhero movie, and they redid it in color, and his was black and white. But the fans, they forced the studio to release his version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and his version was superior.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
100%. Well, there's tens and tens of millions of Street Fighter fans. So
yeah,
maybe
I'm sure we can leverage something. Here.
Maybe one day we can get it out there, because it'd be amazing to see. It really would.
It would. It'd really be, and so historic, you know.
Especially on the 30th anniversary of the release of the movie.
Exactly.
But look, I have a really curious question that I want to ask you.
Okay.
I want to know what your agent said to you to convince you to sign on to the Human Centipede 3.
We were both thinking it, Jay.
Well, I tell you, it's very easy, because a lot of castings do it. First of all, I've never done a horror movie. I've never done one. And my career started kind of stellar. I remember my first role was playing a lead in a martial arts extravaganza. So I never did, you know, like if you look at a lot of careers, they start those little bit parts and then they build up to. I started right at the top, and I continued doing a lot of A-list movies afterwards. You know, I've been in like 4 Oscar-winning movies since Street Fighter. You know, Cold Mountain, The Missing, Adaptation, Reverend. I've done a lot of films that got to win it, but Street Fighter had that thing. So the director of Centipede, it was brother and sister, Tom Six, and I forgot the sister's name. They literally called me. They said, "Look, we've written this script, and I basically had heard about the series. It was just the first one was just showing on some of the cable, and how creepy it was. And I thought it was a monster movie. When I heard the Centipede, I thought it was a monster movie. I had no idea how crazy the story was. So he calls me up and goes, "Listen, I've written this part. It's a prison movie, and I had you in mind to play the native role, the Geronimo role I had in mind. And are you claustrophobic? Are you afraid of this?" He asked all kinds of crazy questions. And I said, no, but, you know, and it was exactly 2008 where, you know, I don't know if you remember, we had a whole recession in US where it hit us. Everything shut down. It was like no work. It was worse than what we just went through with the strike. It was literally nothing. The Hollywood shut down. It was no business. There was no work, no one. So this guy calls me up. I'm sitting around. He goes, "Hey, I need you for 9 days. I give you this amount of money," which was a nice chunk of money at the time. And I said, "Why not?" You know, I thought, first of all, I thought nobody will see it, you know, and I knew, and he said, it's not like the first or the second one, which was banned in UK. The second one was the real graphic one that shocked everyone. The first one just teased. Second one, he went nuts on it. And the third one was his original idea, which he told me how the idea came about. The director said he was one day reading a newspaper about a pedophile who had abused this young girl. And he was so upset about reading this story. He goes, "You know what? This guy shouldn't be in jail." And his sister said, "What do you think is the right punishment?" He goes, "Well, you know, his face should be stowed into another prisoner's ass. You know, he should eat. Literally, he said this guy should eat shit for the rest of his life. And as he says that, it was like eureka, you know, and then an idea for a movie. And that's how he wrote the first script. So when he went to the third one, the idea was to go back to the prison and actually tell the story he had in mind. And so, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's one of those things I knew when I did it, either I'm going to regret it or you're going to be a talking thing down the road. Yeah. And to be honest, the other reason I did it because my character gets his face burnt pretty early in the movie. Like I get waterboarded with boiling water. I mean, literally, they can't get more graphic than that. So my face is fried, and I've got it's all bandaged up. So I figured this guy looks like a monster. No one sees me, you know. I just do it, you know. I'm going to do it, you know. But of course, everybody knows I did it.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
It's always like that. I ended up on the cover of a Canadian. I ended up on the cover of a Canadian magazine. My face as the character getting sewed up. I'm like, Jesus, on the cover. I mean, I thought this will be undercover. No, it was undercover.
it's turned into a cult classic. I mean, all three of them have. So.
Oh no, it is. It was the most original horror concept in decades. I mean, it really was. It was so different. It was so like just made you creeped out. The whole thing was creepy, and we shot it in real prisons here in LA. So it was. I think the filming was even creepy. Yeah, we did real prisons, real cells. There was such a funky energy. One of the prisons is where Al Capone was held back in the day, and they claim it's haunted. It was really a creepy place. I mean, like even just being in the cell with the camera people was weird. So that's it's something I like to kind of like forget.
Would you say unequivocally that is the most bizarre movie that you've been involved with?
I don't think I'll ever top that. I mean, I don't care how crazy it gets, even David Lynch, whatever. I don't think that's just got to be the nuttiest premise. The whole thing was just so over the top, and we had a fairly good cast. We had Eric Roberts, we had Robert Lasardo, we had Sonny Liston. We had like a pretty decent cast, actually, considering what a crazy film it was. So all of that kind of enticed me to do it too. I thought, well, if these guys have signed on, it can't be too bad.
No,
but
fantastic.
It was.
So I know that Jay, you've been in some of the biggest pictures since the early 2000s. You mentioned Cold Mountain, which was absolutely phenomenal. The Reverend, which was absolutely incredible. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience on the sets of those two films?
Sure. So Cold Mountain was 2002, I believe. Yeah. 2002. Yeah. It's and it was literally when they were casting it. It was like casting of Gone with the Wind. Every supporting role had a star name in it. I mean, that's how many stars were in that movie. Every supporting role, and so. And our director Anthony Minghella, God bless him, he's gone too now. And he died very young. He went to the hospital. They ruined the operation. He bled to death at 54 years old because he really was like the David Lynn of his generation. Wow. And he was looking for someone to be Jude Law's like Cherokee brother. And he was very specific what he was looking for. He wanted someone to be able to hold himself against Jude and have a certain features to fit with Jude. And to make fun of that year, Jude was the sexiest man alive because we didn't let him off the hook.
Yeah,
we teased him so much with that.
Sexiest man alive.
Exactly. So anyway, it was a wonderful experience landing it, but it wasn't easy. I remember I had to work really hard, and it took about 5 weeks to process, 5 weeks of auditioning before Minghella decided with me. And it was very exciting times, though, because I knew I'd made a huge movie. And I'd only done adaptation. I'd done adaptation, but because of 9/11, nobody had seen adaptation with Meryl Streep and Nicolas Cage. And that was a huge movie and very esoteric movie. And I was so excited about that. And the fact that I was opposite Meryl Streep, and I was, it was, that's the one I was waiting for, but nobody had seen it. So I land Cold Mountain without anyone even seeing the adaptation. So then right after Cold Mountain, I landed The Missing for Ron Howard, and with Tommy Lee Jones and Cate Blanchett. So 3 in a row, and all 3 were nominated and did really well. And by 2003, by end of 2003, all of these movies were coming out at the same time. Yeah. And suddenly I went from obscurity to being everywhere in all these A-list top movies. And as far as The Reverend, I have to be clear. I only did, the movie was done. And they went back and they reshot that opening scene, the fight scene between the natives. I was in that. And because I'm good with native languages. I've spoken at least 6 of them in my films. Yes. They used me to speak some of the Iroquois language, which ended up in the film. And to this day, I get residual because my voice is in the movie.
Oh, okay.
And I was in that battle scene at the opening, where you see the natives are fighting and they're calling each other, making bird sounds and shit. All of that is where I was involved with that first scene. Wow. But The Missing, Cold Mountain, adaptation is the 3 huge movies that I was really proud of. And then I did obviously Pathfinder, and I did Into the West with Steven Spielberg. He handpicked me to play that role opposite Kerry Russell. So I had a really good run in that era. That was like my best probably run of like A-list movies, only working with the best of the best. And it was on hindsight now, I realize how lucky I was, because I have friends who've been in the business a lot longer than me, and they've never had the opportunity to work with the caliber I've worked with.
Oh, 100%.
My reel, everyone who's in my reel with me has an Oscar. So it's kind of intimidating. Literally, everyone I'm opposite, whether it's Cate Blanchett, Tommy Lee Jones, Meryl Streep, Halle Berry, the list goes on. It's like they all have an Oscar.
So you kind of own your own Oscar by proxy, right? So you've taken like a little piece of all of their Oscars, and you could create your own.
My agent used to refer to me as the biggest kept secret in Hollywood, because I was working in only A-list movies with A-list actors, but you couldn't really, I wasn't A-list, but in every movie I'd done, I was with them. So I don't know what you could call me. I was a supporting A-list actor, I guess, because all my roles, and my name was at the beginning of the movie, and I was supporting these guys. So it was.
Look, we all know that the reason why those movies won Oscars was purely because they cast you.
Oh, we're all in agreement. There's no denial.
No, it's funny you say that. When Meryl Streep won an award or Chris Cooper actually won the Oscar for adaptation, I realized that one half of that performance, he was with me. Like he was playing off me. So you have to feel good about it, no matter whether it's directly or not. You're in that scene that he got an Oscar for. So he has to play off someone. So that's a compliment to you. You know 100%. What I mean? Because you're only as good as the person you're with in the scene. So it was a huge honor. I mean, listen, I set off with the same dream as everyone else in Hollywood. You think winning an Oscar is the ultimate. But after 30 years of working in Hollywood and still being a working actor, I realized that's my gift. That's my award. To be a working actor after 30 years and not disappear, not be forgotten, and even have gentlemen like you calling me up and want to interview me about a movie I did 30 freaking years ago. Yeah. That is the ultimate reward. I mean, that is right there is the blessing. And I don't want any more than that. I mean, anything else, cherry on the cake. But yeah, definitely, that's my reward. To live my dream, basically, because as a kid, I wanted to do this, and how many people get to actually live it?
Yeah. It's a very humble way you look at it, Jay. And mate, 30 years in the business, you've got a hell of a resume, mate. A hell of a resume.
And not to forget, I was an ethnic guy, not the blue-eyed Tom Cruise guy. When I started, guys like me didn't even get cast. Literally, we didn't get cast unless you were playing a thug or a villain or a terrorist or whatever. I played all of those too. So unless you were playing them, you didn't get cast. It's like Yeah, I did. I was a terrorist in Executive Decision. I've been a, street thug in movies. Like, there was a time, that's all you got. So, anyway,
So-
it's,
So what's next, Jay? What are you doing? What are you up to these days?
well, I'm happy that our industry has just got going. So I'm
Yes.
now auditioning like everyone else for new stuff.
As
Wow.
avid consumers of popular culture products, so are we.
Exactly. And I did a movie during COVID called The First Circle with a Scottish director called Mark G. Chapman. And that should come out this year. And that's got a really good cast too. Michael Madsen and Natasha
wow.
Hendricks. And
Yes.
it's a really great cast. And it's an unusual movie about the devil. It's like a Quentin-esque crime movie, but with a demonic aspect. So he's combined.
That's right up my
That's
alley.
up our alley, mate. We'll be
No,
all
you're gonna
over
love
that.
this movie. It's so out there. I mean, this
Yeah.
director is like some people are comparing him to the young Quentin. He's really like an interesting guy.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's done a really good job, and that movie is called The First Circle. So that's next. But
Fantastic.
and it's funny you say that, but that director wants to also do a 30th anniversary documentary on Street Fighter.
Please, Jay,
that I'm
please
involved
give us
with.
that.
No, we are. We already got the permission from Capcom. We already have spoken to. We want 6 of the Street Fighters, including Jean-Claude. We
Yep.
want the director, and then we're going also after like Bruce Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee. We're going to go after Danny Nasato's daughter, and all of them, and as well as maybe Dana to talk about, because the idea is Street Fighter kind of like came at the moment where, if you think about it, the beginning of the mixed martial art was Bruce Lee and his philosophy.
Yep.
And he led that into, when you think about a Street Fighter, then led into UFC and MMA. And so we wanted to show how this simple game, in a way, had captured the essence of what happened now, how MMA has evolved. It was like, in Street Fighter, each character had a different style. They were from different nation, and they pit them up against each other to see how a ninjutsu guy would fare against a sumo guy. How did and it's UFC is kind of that, because you can come from wrestling, boxing, judo, whatever, but you're in that ring opposite a guy with a similar set of skills, and it's very interesting to see who comes out. At the beginning, all the grapplers, jiu-jitsu guys were kicking ass, but now you have to be a full fighter. You have to have stand-up game. You have to have a boxing game. You got to have kickboxing. You got to have ground game. So that's
now, Jay, if they do decide during the making of this documentary that they want to interview some absolute nerds who love Street Fighter.
No, I'm going to suggest you guys.
I know a couple, all right?
Thanks, man.
Definitely.
Just going back on, all the different types of martial arts. What have you been practicing since your youth?
Oh, well, I started off doing Kung Fu. Kung Fu was Butu style Kung Fu was the first thing I studied. Then I got into Taekwondo and Judo, and eventually when I found boxing, I realized really you can't top a boxer. If you got into a fist fight with a boxer, you're gonna lose. So, and I realized, and Bruce knew that, by the way, too. When he studied Jeet Kune Do, which was their way of intercepting fist, he studied a lot of Western boxing as well as fencing to create his technique, because he realized part of it was evading the attack like fencers are, and also boxers have that bob and weave, and they're able to, they're not really thinking. You have a set of punches, a jab, a right cross, a hook, an uppercut, and once you learn that basic set, you let it go. You just in the moment, and you respond to your opponent spontaneously. And that, to me, is what Bruce was talking about. There's no set techniques. Where in karate, you go like this, and the guy goes like this, and then, that never works in a real fight, because the guy headbutts you. He doesn't wait for you to do this, So Bruce was right.
I'm watching you do all of these moves, the uppercut, and I'm like, okay, I give up.
Look, my knuckles still.
Oh,
look.
you've definitely been in the ring, my friend.
To this day, my knuckles. In fact, I remember I was in Australia. I was at a karaoke bar a Japanese guy owned, and he's looking at me. He's looking at me, and I had this tattoo across my body. She just looked at me and goes, first he goes, "You Yakuza." And I go, no. I'm an actor, street fighter. Then he looks at my knuckles, goes, "Oh, street fighter." You know, I go, no, actor, only acting. He goes, then he looks at my knuckles again. He goes, "That's not actor's knuckles."
No. I cannot believe.
I never forgot that. He was a tough-looking Japanese guy, and he was like, "You are real." He was like, "That is not actor hands." It was like, okay, you got me.
It's so funny, Jay. I used to actually live on the Gold Coast, and that karaoke bar is still there, my friend.
Oh my God, I know the one you're talking about.
And it's called Shoe Nut Bar. It's
I
still
think
there.
So. Oh
and
my!
And the gentleman that owns it still works there.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
So you know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
It was so funny, man. We had such a laugh that night.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you something about Australia. Your girls, not just they were beautiful, they could drink any man I know under the table.
100%.
I went out with a group of Australian girls. We were invited, and these ladies start doing shots. And I'm not kidding you. I mean, I'm not a big drinker. I was doing the shots over my shoulder, just timing it, because after like 18 shots, I was like, "How are they standing?" They were still normal. It was so like drinking water. I'm like,
what they don't tell you is we're built a little bit different down here in Australia. So you know how they say that every animal in Australia wants to kill you, but there's the other myth that they don't talk about, and that is that all Australians are born with 3 livers.
I think so.
No, you know, mate, we'll do a slab before lunch on a daily, mate. We're fine.
Oh my God. No, I always said Aussies are tough people. Yeah. I mean, that coastline, you have to be tough to survive there. You know,
everything here's trying to kill you, Jay. Every single animal wants to kill you.
Your spiders and your great white sharks. And I mean, no, it's and you got funny, scary snakes and
No,
you got that's. I met a few Aboriginal guys that told me. I mean, they're the only ones who live inland because everybody else is on the coast. It's so funny that everybody lives on the coast in Australia.
We do.
No one lives in the middle. You know?
So 93% of our population, Jay, is built on the coastline.
It is.
So you've got 7% inland.
And that's because over 70% of our land mass, which is a bigger land mass than North America, by the way. 75% of our land mass is actually a desert.
Unbelievable. And I heard the only people who can handle that kind of heat is the Aboriginals. You know,
you're not wrong. Yeah, Indigenous Australians, we're talking 45, 50 degrees on a daily.
Yeah. No, they did a whole program. They said their core temperature, they somehow can, like you and I will die in those heat.
Oh,
but
100%.
They stay for days with minimum water and stuff. They can travel. It's like walkabout, as they call it.
That's exactly right. You know you're Australian. You know your history, mate.
Yeah, no, I love the Aussies, man. I had a lot of fun there. It was good times.
Do you have any plans on ever coming back to Australia, Jay?
I hope so. I really do. I hope again it's for another project because it was a beautiful experience. I really had a great
pick you
time.
Up from the airport.
If you come to Melbourne, Jay, we will be there ready at the airport for you, and we'll give you a tour of Melbourne.
I haven't
with 12
seen
bottles
Melbourne.
of tequila in hand.
Oh my God! I did Brisbane. I did your Gold Coast, but I didn't do Melbourne. I know it's a gorgeous place. I mean, I've seen it. It's an iconic city. So
the food capital of Australia, my friend. We've got everything you want down here.
Oh, the food was great. The food, I remember the food was really not like here, not like our food, all genetically modified and stuff. Your food was wholesome and solid, you know?
Yeah.
It was
Jay,
good time.
This has been such an incredible chat, and we're so grateful that you made time to have a conversation with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. And I brought a few memorabilia to show you. This is the actual mask from the movie, the actual steel mask.
That's incredible.
And I wanted to show you the first movie poster that was ever chosen with Vega in the middle. And this was rejected, but Universal had this as the original Street Fighter poster with all the characters. And there's Kylie right there. You can ask this gentleman.
Oh, come on, John Claude.
Seriously, because if you look at the Ultimate Edition, these two stayed the same place. We became this big in the bottom. Wow. He made us little in the bottom. He just wanted their faces on it. So
No.
But
Mate, as
yeah,
fans, we want that one. That's top notch, man.
that was the one Universal had chosen. That's the way I have it. This was actual Universal. This was the movie poster that they changed. But to be honest, it's more exciting as well. It's not because
100%.
I'm in the middle. Look at all the characters, and they look. They're like.
It definitely shows you all of the Street Fighters.
Oh, there's Kylie down on the left there.
Yeah, there's Kylie, there's Balrog, there's Ryu, there's Chun-Li, who's now in Mandalorian.
Yeah,
she's incredible. I'm a
She's
big fan of
there's
Ming-Na
Wes Studi, who got the honorary Oscar since then.
Yeah, the last of the Mohicans.
There's Andrew Bernowski, who was Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He's the Leatherface.
Jesus.
Yeah, he was Leatherface. He was in Batman. And this guy here, Grant, he now is a doctor. He quit acting and became a physician. He's the actual doctor now. So goes to, and then we have a pop star in there too. So
yeah,
interesting. And he's gone.
You can literally see your 8-pack on that poster, Jay.
No, I was still ridiculously cut. I mean, I'm still pretty good shape, but it was outrageous how ripped I was for that movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it was to this day. In fact, this year I'm going to do a couple of appearances as Vega because of the 30th anniversary, and my goal is to be in pretty decent shape to say, Granddad Vega still is back.
Yes,
I love it. I love it. That's unreal. Jay, thank you so much for your time. It has been an absolute blast hanging out with you. And,
I appreciate it.
Keep in touch, and we can't wait to feature on your documentary.
We can't wait to see your next film as well, mate.
Definitely, I'll keep. And if you want to do a follow up, we'll do it when we have the documentary. And
you're on.
I bring the director next time, so we can talk to him. All right, guys.
Anytime, my friend. It's a real pleasure, Jay. Thank you so much, buddy.
All right. Well, I'll leave you with this.
Yes.
Vega,
Vega, Vega, Vega, Vega, Vega, Vega.